Could you press your request? Go ahead.
So you made a comment during the session that you were comfortable with my absence because your committee flowed quite nicely. Now, I would like to reiterate that the Parliament purchased a mic system for a purpose, to ensure that persons could be recognized in the order in which they chose to turn their mics on. If we have individuals who are required to present, then it would mean that they would have to keep their mic on, or we would have to use the per mic, as you have seen us do. That is a system established by the Parliament, not me as Speaker, or a member of committee, or as chair. So for you to indicate that this is how you are doing it as chair, I do have an issue, because I observed for my first two meetings, I remember asking a question and being rushed, and other members were allowed to go on and on and on and on with their questions. I don't find your fair. And while as Speaker in the sittings, there is a duty and a mechanism by which the Speaker operates, there is equally a different standard set as it relates to committees and what happens at committees. Now, for some members who come here and are disrespectful and rude because they have not spent the time to learn before they start to make their commentary, I would encourage them, when the Parliament is having the trainings, to come to the training so that they don't waste time. There are those of us that have spent the time sitting quietly. I remember my first term, I sat quietly for a good part and listened in committees and learned instead of argue with others. All right? And so some fast learners continue to be stupid and use ChatGPT for their questions. Now, Chair, that is a concern for me and for other members in respect of how you recognize persons and how you allow persons the latitude in speaking. As Speaker in the House, at the end of the day, it is usually the opposition who comments, who asks questions, and they are allowed to go on and on and on. Some may not appreciate that it is only under this dispensation that this Speaker allows persons beyond 4 to be asking questions. So many persons are allowed, and they go until they've reached the last. Last term, it wasn't the case. Persons would be cut off after a while. Standing orders will actually address that. As it relates to the chairman's prerogative of asking so many questions at the start of the session, I think that's also a challenge. The chair is supposed to moderate the committee, not be the person who takes over at committees. And so I believe it would be more appropriate, Chair, to have members ask questions. And where you see gaps, where you think you now need to add, as you have quite nicely and rightfully done in many of the sessions, you do so. But at the beginning of the meeting, for the chair to ask most of the questions, I'm not quite getting it. The committee should give the opportunity to members to be able to come forward with their questions, and the chair moderate and interject when necessary. Let me try to note them. Last but not least is the ambit of the PAAC. I just wanted to be very clear in understanding now that we're in budget cycle. When is our next meeting? And would we be going the route of doing an analysis based on actual appropriations, what is spent so far? Or are we going to be meeting to discuss estimates? And I ask this based on some of even the questions we had for today's session, because we would have just gone through an extensive budget process where this very same committee would have, along with Standing Finance, analyzed the budget and the budget numbers going forward. Now, normally, immediately or during budget, we would not have been having this session normally. and immediately after you have just accepted a budget, wouldn't have been doing this session. We would have allowed the ministries, agencies, and department of government an opportunity to execute in terms of their spend and policy before we come back to interrogating the appropriations in respect of the spend. So I wanted to have an appreciation from you, Chair, what would be the arrangement going forward in the short term.
The two major topics that we determined to examine, this rural school bus program and the Spark program, I think it's called, the Spark program. These are multi-year programs. They're straddled last fiscal year and they continue in the coming fiscal year, which we technically haven't started yet. So I think it is quite appropriate for us to examine them. There's no requirement in the standing orders that when the budget debate is going on that the committee doesn't meet. But I am happy if you want us to. I'm open. Let me say, if we want us to put back our next sitting, which is due for the 25th, if we want to skip that one and go into April to allow the budget debate, since we're all quite intensely occupied during this period, and it would also give the clerk who is new, the committee clerk who is new, a little time to get up to speed. I have no objection to that.
Spark, as you have identified, I do still have a concern in that PAAC's mandate is reviewing appropriations. The monies that were budgeted should be spent by the different ministries, agencies, and departments, and how it was. Let me tell you why I'm identifying Spark as a particular one. The committee that handles infrastructure, get the name of it. Confirm the name. Committee. The infrastructure committee, all right, which is the committee that should take up exclusively road infrastructure, bridge infrastructure. That is what that committee is for.
I think you're interpreting the mandate too narrowly, and Mr. Newell has on more than one occasion in discussions with Mr. Clark as chairman of the infrastructure committee pointed out that this committee is not limited to examining appropriations. It goes,
this
the
one?
PAAC
Yeah, it says it
is not limited. Mr. Newell, perhaps you could just
two things, Chair, if I generally
I'm going to just invite you, since I see you have the standing orders in front of you.
All right. It is a book that I've been trying to learn and build some expertise on. Well. So it says the 73A says the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee shall have the duty of, and it seems A and B are the only two that it has traditionally or it is seen to do, examining budgetary expenditure of government agencies and other public bodies to ensure that expenditure is done in accordance with parliamentary approval, monitoring expenditure as it occurs and keeping the parliament informed of how the budget is being implemented. So those are A and B. But C says inquiring into the administration of the government to determine hindrances to efficiency and making recommendations to the government for the improvement of public administration. I think C gives a
very broad mandate
to look into the administration of.
Even B would provide for examination of these programs that straddle one year to another. Okay. We're not like the PAC. We don't have to wait for the appropriations to be spent and then they come and do a report.
You don't have to explain that to me at all. Administration. When you are reviewing the administration of government, what is it that you take that review to mean?
Well, I believe it looks at just how different government programs are managed. And if you read the entire thing, it speaks to hindrances to efficiency, for example. And so to take today, because you mentioned the JUTC matter, I think it is totally appropriate for this committee to examine whether one way of implementing
I never
versus
mentioned
another.
JTC, you know, the one that I highlighted was Spark for a particular reason.
Right.
Because there's a committee that's supposed to do exactly that, like specific for roads.
But Mrs. Holness, when we look, for example, at the Hurricane Melissa recovery, element of that straddle many different sessional select committees of this parliament, and it's the nature of the PAAC that there will be some overlap at the margins. While we may not be the principal committee to examine infrastructure, the principal committee to examine education, but in the course of our work, we will overlap the work of those committees at the margins. So
I don't think we can say a program is off limits to the PAAC.
Yeah, I am
based on how this is structured.
The general feeling of the members, as we have discussed what subjects to go on, they have tended to interpret the standing orders as it relates to the mandate of this committee more broadly than narrowly.
Just one more thing though, Chair, as it relates to the because one of the things I've been trying to understand is just who sets the rules for committees. And as I've said the last meeting, and I'll say again, I think whoever occupies the chair, there should be a level of respect for the chair and that role, just the fact that the role is being occupied. I haven't found much about the microphone system in the standing orders, but what I've found, it speaks the language of catching the eye of the chair or of the speaker. We can decide if the microphone is what is to be used, but Rule 4.6 says the Speaker in the House and the Chairman in committees shall have power to regulate the conduct of business in all matters not provided for in these standing orders. So if the standing order doesn't speak to a microphone system and there's a system by which you seek recognition in another way, it is entirely appropriate and allowed based on the standing orders.
Well,
yeah. The standing orders allow you to find another way so you can raise your hand. If you recall, when you entered Parliament for the first month, I found some persons behaving as if they were children. Literally, the system, as some believe there is a bias, to have the clerk identify individuals. So I didn't do so as Speaker, which would be the same in the chair. Yeah. Instead of me writing down who is first, second, third, and sometimes missing the individual, I'd pass that responsibility to the clerk and deputy clerk to say, peruse the parliament, see what's happening, and you identify the sequence. It didn't work because of members. So the standing orders does not specify that you must use a microphone system. Right. But a microphone system which allows persons to be identified one after the other in the sequence in which they touch the mic was one that made it so that there is no human intervention in who is first, who is second, who is third. So I take no issue if the committee decides that you're going to hold up your hand, and if that is what the chair and the committee, not just the chair,
well, it speaks to, no man, it's in the same, so I deliberately, after I read this, I never took any part in the discussion about whether you wanted hands to be raised or mics to be turned on, as long as I would get an opportunity to participate. So in the same regard, I think the same respect should be given to chair of committee to make a decision in terms of, because it's a simple decision. So it's in my mind, it shouldn't be taken a lot. That
chairman's prerogative is such that I'm going to ask the questions at the beginning.
Well, there are ways.
I don't think we're going to find agreement on this. I think you've read what the standing orders say. My view as chairman is that the mic system does not replace the chairman. The chairman presides over the committee. The mic system is here to serve the committee, not the committee to serve the mic system. So we've been going on fine up to now, and
with your bias.
I really, just allow me to finish. Just allow me to finish. I have tried to be impartial in my conduct of this committee, and the fact that from time to time members on both sides are may be upset with me suggests to me that I am achieving impartiality, right? And, you know, that is something I would commend to you, Mrs. Holness, when you're presiding in the chair in the House. But members, I mean, it's almost 1 o'clock. I think the staff would like to have lunch. I don't think we need to prolong this anymore. Further, you had a suggestion, Mr. Williams? Could you press your mic?
It was working fine, and I don't agree with that. You are, I mean, I want to get into your business, but a member was dislodged from this committee because of the same
No member
issue.
was dislodged from this committee. So please, don't misrepresent.
I'm
A member was not removed. Again, on a
No.
point of order, Chairman.
That's rubbish. That's rubbish.
That different
That-
than you know.
Did you remember right that answer? The member did not say
Anyway.
that. The member never
No.
said that. No, he never
Anyway,
said he resigned
members,
because of that. He
there-
didn't resign in the meeting. He did not resign.
Could we, I don't think there's any point in prolonging. So could we settle on the date of the next meeting as April? If we are to, we kind of lose our cycle if we miss March 25th, which I don't have a problem with. So the next available Wednesday morning would be April 29th. No, Mr. You are heading down a path that, you know, you can't speak for another member who is not here. So let's move beyond that. April 29th, can we agree on date of next meeting, April 29th? All right. There being April 29th. Didn't you ask for, you said a break? I'm proposing the clerk has told me the next available Wednesday morning is the 29th. I'm saying, can we all agree on that? Aye? Okay. Can I have a motion for the adjournment? So, second, all in favor? Thank you. The meeting stands adjourned.